There's a kind of silence that doesn't live in sound. It lives beneath your skin. It hums there, like static, a frequency of exile. That's what it feels like when you realize your entire family has gathered to celebrate a wedding, and your name was never on the list. The photos hit first: radiant smiles, champagne toasts, coral flowers, the laughter of people who share your blood. And then it hits deeper: the understanding that you weren't forgotten. You were deleted. The human mind tries to rationalize betrayal. Maybe they lost my address. Maybe the invite got delayed. But the truth doesn't hide forever. It's deliberate, it's coordinated, it's cold. And when that realization cracks open your chest, what pours out isn't sadness, it's clarity. You see the machine behind the illusion. Families built not on love, but control. Legacies maintained not through connection, but compliance. You've probably felt it too, that invisible pressure to play your part in the script they wrote for you. Don't speak too loud, don't shine too bright, don't remind them that you see through the performance. You were raised to believe family meant safety. But what if family was the first institution that taught you how to accept manipulation as love? When she called her mother and asked, "Why wasn't I invited?" the response wasn't confusion, it was correction. You always make everything about yourself. The words weren't random, they were a ritual, a psychological disarmament, gaslighting disguised as grace. Here's the thing they never want you to realize: every family that worships image over authenticity is just a small-scale version of the world's oldest empire, the empire of appearances. It thrives on exclusion. It rewards those who conform and exiles those who awaken. When they cut you out, it's never by accident. It's a signal that you've become dangerous to their illusion. They didn't lose your invitation in the mail, they burned it, because you stopped being a character in their story and started writing your own. And for systems built on control, nothing is more terrifying than a mind that refuses to play its assigned role. But this isn't just about one wedding. This is about the hidden structure beneath all gatherings, the unspoken hierarchy of belonging. You're about to see how far those systems go, and why exile can be the first taste of freedom. Families like hers don't simply happen. They're engineered, brick by emotional brick, over generations. Her mother wasn't the villain, she was the instrument, a finely tuned part of an ancient machine that thrives on shame and silence. Every Sunday dinner, every fake smile, every "we're doing this for your own good," was programming, conditioning to keep her obedient, humble, small. When her cousin got engaged, the hierarchy activated instantly. Her aunt became the matriarch general, her mother, the enforcer, her cousin, the golden child, the one who never questioned the rules, and her? She was the shadow that reminded them of what they buried: independence, rebellion, authenticity. So they did what every system does when faced with defiance: they erased her from the ritual. The lost invitation wasn't a clerical error, it was a social execution, the kind that hides behind politeness. "Oh, the mail must have mixed up." You know how these things happen, lies laced with sugar carefully wrapped in plausible deniability. You might think this is small, just one event, but beneath it lies the blueprint of all human control systems. Governments, corporations, even relationships all function on the same silent law: exclude those who see too clearly. Her mother's voice echoed like prophecy: you'd ruin her day. Translation: your presence reveals the cracks in our illusion. That night she stared at her phone screen, watching the live stories. Cousins dancing, relatives hugging, her mother glowing under chandelier light. And in that hollow scroll she stood something terrifying. She had never belonged. She had simply performed belonging. In that moment something ancient stirred inside her. Not vengeance, awareness. The kind that strips away every layer of guilt and obedience until you see the bare machinery of manipulation. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She watched, observed, collected. Because once you understand the pattern, you stop reacting and you start designing your response. And her response wouldn't be loud. It would be precise, a quiet dismantling of the structure that made her invisible. The following week she became a ghost, not absent but unseen in plain sight. Watching, recording, remembering. Every family message thread, every call, every casual lie became data. The more she watched, the more the pattern revealed itself. The family wasn't bound by love, it was bound by mutual denial. Her cousin, the bride, had secrets too, ones no one dared speak of. A fake engagement ring financed through someone else's credit. A fiancé whose loyalty was negotiable. But Image demanded silence. The wedding was a theater performance, and everyone was cast, except her. The moment she was excluded, she became the only one outside the illusion, the only one who could see all of it. She started keeping a file, screenshots, bank transfers, messages. She wasn't planning revenge, she was building evidence, because sometimes the only way to reveal a system's corruption is to let it collapse under the weight of its own truth, and yet deep down, something more personal stirred. Every night she'd whisper to herself, maybe they'll call, maybe someone will realize. But no one did. Not even her mother. That silence carved something permanent into her. Not hate, resolve, you see. Some people break. Others evolve. She evolved. She stopped reacting to their contempt. She studied it like an archaeologist studies ancient ruins, searching for the buried god beneath the dust. Because the truth is, the family wasn't just lying to her. They were lying to themselves. Every photograph without her face was a confession. Every forced laugh was proof of fear. Fear of what happens when one of their own stops kneeling. By the time the wedding weekend arrived, she already knew how it would end. She wouldn't need to raise her voice or crash the event. She would simply let their own actions expose them. On the morning of the wedding, she stood before the mirror. The same mirror she'd grown up in front of. Her mother's vanity, where she was once told to smile softer, wear lighter colors, don't be too much. That mirror had always reflected a diluted version of her, the version her family tolerated, but not today. Today she stared until the old reflection burned away. What stared back wasn't a victim, it was a witness. Her reflection whispered, you don't need their table to eat, you don't need their applause to exist. She didn't wear a gown, she didn't wear makeup. She dressed in truth, simple, clear, unbending. She took her phone, the evidence, the words that no one wanted to hear, and walked out. Not toward the wedding, but toward freedom, because the ceremony wasn't her battlefield. The real war was inside the image, and she was about to shatter it. The wedding shimmered in gold, strings of fairy lights tangled with flowers that looked too perfect to be real. The family moved in rehearsed patterns, laughter, poses, clinking glasses, a ritual of appearances. No one noticed her at first. She stood at the edge of the venue, uninvited yet unafraid. There was no dramatic entrance, no outburst. She simply walked in, quietly, confidently. The guards hesitated, she smiled. I'm family. The words sliced like irony. Inside, every pair of eyes flickered with confusion, guilt, and fear, that same fear systems have when their myth is challenged. Her mother's smile faltered. Her cousin froze mid-laugh. The illusion cracked, thin as glass, but she didn't confront anyone. She just watched. Observed the whispers spread like wildfire. Because sometimes the truth doesn't need to scream, it only needs to arrive. The crowd rippled. She's here. Wasn't she not invited? Who let her in? Their voices carried panic disguised as curiosity. Her aunt approached, trembling with fake calm. Sweetheart, this is your cousin's day, don't make it about you. Those were the words, the commandment, the family's holy law. Don't make it about you, but it was never about her, it was about the truth. She smiled. I won't. Then she turned, looked toward the photographer, and handed him a small USB drive. Play this, she said softly. He hesitated, then connected it to the projector. The lights dimmed, the music cut, and every lie began to unravel in front of the entire family. The screen flickered alive. Screenshots, receipts, messages, bank transfers showing how the wedding funds weren't as pure as they claimed. Conversations revealing who said what behind whose back, and most haunting of all, a message chain between her mother and aunt discussing how keeping her away will keep the event peaceful. Gasps filled the hall. The bride's face turned white. The mother's mask crumbled. The room transformed into a courtroom of unspoken sins. But she didn't gloat. She didn't smile. She stood silent, calm, centered, because she hadn't come for revenge. She came for release. Every system collapses when its lies are displayed under light, and that's exactly what she gave them. Light. The speeches stopped. The laughter died. Guests started whispering, some leaving quietly, others recording. Her cousin screamed, "Why would you do this?" She answered, "Because I was never the problem. The silence was." Her mother's voice cracked, pleading, "You've embarrassed us." She replied, "No, Mom. You embarrassed yourself when you chose image over blood." In that moment she felt something lift. Decades of manipulation dissolving into clarity. She didn't just break their illusion, she broke her chains. She turned and walked out. No grand exit, no applause, just the quiet sound of freedom. Behind her, chaos erupted. Arguments, blame, excuses. But none of it mattered anymore. For the first time, she wasn't chasing their validation. She was leading her own story. Outside, under the night sky, the cold air met her like truth, and for the first time, she smiled. Not for them, for herself. Silence followed her home like a companion. No calls, no apologies, no explanations. But she didn't need them. The silence that once haunted her now belonged to her. It wasn't loneliness, it was sovereignty. She spent nights journaling, not about pain but pattern recognition. She mapped every behavior, every phrase, every manipulation. She wasn't healing, she was decoding, because when you decode control, you don't just recover, you evolve beyond it. Weeks later, she did something symbolic. No confrontation, no retaliation. She hosted a small seaside gathering, her own ceremony of truth, not a wedding. A reclamation. She invited no one who drained her, only those who saw her. A few friends, a few strangers who had walked similar paths. They lit candles, shared stories, and burned the phrase, "Don't make it about you." The ocean roared in approval. Freedom has a sound, and its waves hitting the shore after a long silence. One guest filmed the ceremony and uploaded it online. A simple clip, her standing by the sea saying, "I wasn't uninvited, I was liberated." The video spread like wildfire, millions watched, thousands commented, "I felt this was me, the truth always finds its way." That line, her whisper to herself, became a movement. And then the family saw it. Their phones buzzed with the video, their faces pale as they watched the world celebrate the woman they erased. Her mother called, crying, demanding she take it down. Her aunt threatened legal action, but she didn't flinch. "You taught me how to be silent," she said. "Now you can learn how to listen." The clip stayed online, because once the truth enters the current, no one can pull it back. In the weeks that followed, she wasn't angry, she was awake. She realized her story wasn't about revenge, it was about revelation. Every exile contains a message, every rejection carries a map, and every lost invitation is just life's way of saying, "You were never meant to sit at that table." She finally understood. She wasn't missing from their celebration. They were missing from hers. Months later, people still wrote to her, "Your story made me walk away from my toxic family. Your courage reminded me I'm not broken, I'm chosen." She smiled every time because that's how truth works. It starts as pain and ends as power. Her family rebuilt their image, pretending nothing happened. But the world remembered. And deep down, so did they, because some invitations are never meant to arrive. Some are meant to be burned. So you can finally build your own table, under your own light. Truth, once released, doesn't stay contained, it travels, like electricity through the veins of the collective. Her video didn't just go viral, it awakened something. Across cities, across oceans, strangers began recreating her ceremony. They gathered by lakes, rivers, and rooftops, burning old family photos not out of hate, but out of release. They called it the Lost Invitation Movement. People who had been silenced, by families, workplaces, or lovers, all resonated with one thing, that sometimes being uninvited is the first sign you were never meant to belong in the illusion. And quietly, her story became less about her, and more about everyone who ever felt erased. Weeks later, her mother appeared at her door. No cameras, no audience, just rain and silence. She looked smaller now, her voice shaking. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "I was trying to protect our image." The daughter studied her, not with hatred but with understanding. "You protected the mask," she said softly, "but you forgot the face behind it." Her mother wept, not for guilt but for recognition, because deep down she knew she had been programmed by her mother and her mother before that. Generational control isn't born in cruelty, it's inherited in fear. They sat together for the first time as two women, not roles. And though forgiveness didn't come instantly, truth did. Sometimes the deepest revenge is not destruction, it's understanding what broke them. One night she stood again before the mirror. But this time, the reflection didn't haunt her. She saw not the ghost of exclusion, but the architect of freedom. Every scar looked like scripture now, every rejection like a divine signature. She realized something profound. She had become the person she needed when she was being erased. And that's the true definition of transformation, not escaping your story, but rewriting its meaning. In that moment she whispered, "I am not what they excluded, I am what they feared." To close the chapter, she organized one last gathering, not for the world but for the witnesses of truth. Dozens of people she had met online arrived. Those who had lost families, friends, jobs, all for daring to speak up. They built a circle on the beach. Each brought something symbolic. An old letter, a photograph, a uniform, a wedding card. One by one, they cast them into the fire. The flames didn't just consume, they cleansed. And when her turn came, she threw in a single unopened envelope. It was her cousin's wedding invitation. Her mother had secretly sent it weeks after the scandal. Too late, too hollow. As it burned, she smiled, not from spite but serenity, because the invitation had finally arrived in the only form it was ever meant to, ash and lesson. Her story was now a living myth. People quoted her words in documentaries, in speeches, even in classrooms. But she never monetized it, never chased fame. She understood. Truth isn't a brand, it's a current. And she had become its vessel. She used her platform to teach others how to unlearn shame, how to confront the quiet systems of control embedded in normal life, from families to faiths, from offices to governments. She revealed how exclusion is used as a weapon to maintain obedience. What began as a wedding snub became a mirror held up to the entire world, and for the first time millions stared into it and saw themselves. Years passed. She moved to a quiet coastal town, the same place she'd first hosted her seaside ceremony. No interviews, no press, just waves and wind. But occasionally she'd receive letters. Not from her family, but from strangers who'd been freed by her story. Some thanked her for saving their lives. Others confessed that they too had once excluded someone, and finally understood the damage silence can do. She kept them all in a wooden box labeled Echoes, because that's what truth does. It echoes through generations until someone listens. One stormy night, a knock echoed through her small home. When she opened the door, she found her cousin, the bride. Her eyes were red, makeup gone, pride stripped away. "I watched the video again," she said quietly, "and I realized I was you once, before they molded me." They sat together for hours, no apologies, no blame, just stories, two women who had been pitted against each other by the same invisible architecture, and for the first time they laughed, genuinely, painfully, beautifully, because the system that had divided them was gone. As dawn rose, her cousin whispered, "You lit the match, now teach me how to keep the fire alive." So she did. She passed on the rituals, the truths, the philosophies, not as rebellion, but as remembrance. Because every generation needs one person willing to burn the old script. And now there were two. The fire that once symbolized exile had become lineage, not of blood, but of awakening. Years later, when her hair had silvered, she stood once again by the ocean. This time, no camera, no audience, just her, the sea, and the wind. She whispered, "Everything I lost was the price of freedom. Everything I gained was the proof of it." She placed her old journal in the waves. It drifted away slowly, carrying her story back into the current that started it all. And as it disappeared into the horizon, she smiled, because she knew the truth didn't need her anymore. It had found its way into the world. Years later, long after her death, a young girl found a video, grainy, pixelated, titled "The Truth Always Finds Its Way." She watched, cried, and whispered the phrase twice, just as the woman in the video had asked, and in that whisper the current stirred again. The same current that once began with a lost invitation. Because truth never dies, it reincarnates in those ready to receive it, and somewhere, in another city, another woman looked at her reflection and finally understood. She was never excluded, she was being prepared. End of story. The Lost Invitation Saga.